Welcome back, everyone, to Merge Conflict, your weekly developer podcast about all things in the world of software development-ish. We'll see. I am James Montemagno, live from Tokyo, Japan, and with me, the one and only Frank Kruger. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going wonderful, James. And I am so excited because if you're traveling, we all know what that means. New app, new business idea. What have you vibe coded on this trip? I cannot wait. It's going to be a Visual Studio competitor, something crazy. I am so excited to hear what's the new app, James.
Okay. So we got done recording. Okay, this is funny, actually. This is that thing that's really going to happen. So we talked last week, I think after the pod, where I was we use Zencaster, which we've used forever to record podcasts. And there's many things that I like about it, but there's a few things that I don't. And I'm like, what if I could just vibe code something else? So I own Vibecasterstudio.com. It has a beautiful website. I am starting all of the specifications, investigation in the background. I'm not sure if I really want to do it because you definitely need services. You need to deploy things to things, Azure and Cloudflare and AWS and all those things. So I'm speccing out all that right now. But regardless, I'm really intrigued of creating something really unique that we can make for us, right? You and me
Ooh.
in this podcast that can streamline the work. And I've done a few of those bits and pieces separately in some different apps and command line applications, but there's still quite a process. So I'm wondering what a new modern aged, podcast production studio would really look like, from my vision to here. So, but we love Zencaster, great software, but like anything, I'm like, what if we had our own, right? And there's many of them out there, so it's not a huge deal. So that's just starting. I didn't vibe anything on the plane. I did work a lot on beautiful Starlink internet live the entire 10-hour flight from Seattle to Japan. So that happened.
That's fantastic. I was actually just trying to make a joke. I love that you actually did vibe code something and are trying to disrupt an entire app that we've been using for 10 feels like 10 years. I'm actually kind of excited because there there hasn't been too much new in that space. And maybe if I could just put a feature request in there, could you make it work with Safari? Just because we've been using Zencaster for like 10 years and they still don't support Safari. So that would be disruptive, man, if you were actually compatible with a mobile browser.
A
That'd be kind of
Safari
nice.
native.
Um,
Safari native. I can see what I can do. Yeah, I can. I think that's
I love that you are actually working on something though. This modern era of always be writing code or always be agentically writing code is kind of hilarious.
it's been, I created Feedback Flow a year and a half ago with Straight Vibes, and it was a really first great prototype of what a full end-to-end, full production application at scale would look like. And I learned a lot from that process. It's still used by quite a few people, but I haven't really. I've fixed a few things here and there, and I've tweaked things around. And what I mean, like I have a lot of apps, but a lot of them are static apps or they're little desktop apps. They're not, iCircuit, right? You know what I mean? Or they're not even Feedback Flow where they have deployed backend services, user accounts, storage data, all these things. And something like a production podcast studio is much more involved. So I'm going to be really deeping dive into that. But I think that only building little demos, which is normally what I do in advocacy anyways, is a lot of fun. But actually building something at scale to show the truth gives me a lot more demo material. And I use Feedback Flow forever to talk about, here's how I built this thing that's real. So I think that it's, there's tons of businesses being built today with agentic development at different scales. So I want to see like what I can do, right? And some of the new models are just bananas. Like I've been using tons of 5.6 Soul and
Okay.
Terra nonstop. And it's really good. It's really fast. I really, really like it. And 5.5 is still really great. Whole bunch of things. I still use 5.3 codecs on occasions. It's a great, right model, right time, right thing for everything, which is good. But I'm going to put this thing to work and let it go. But it's not actually the main topic today. I am here
Ah,
on
okay.
because I have a conference upcoming where I'm going to be talking about tons of
Ooh.
stuff. But I figure what we would talk about a little bit first is we had three topics we wanted to talk about. Oh, the first one is IMAX. Um, and Frank, is your birthday already by the time people listen to this? So first, happy birthday.
Mm. Oh, I'm very old. Hi.
How old now? 45.
I'm not gonna oh, you said a number. That's illegal. Once you're past 40, you stop counting.
I'm
It's
40
just,
now. So
I'm over 40. We'll
Yeah.
just leave it there. For the next 50 years, I'll just be over 40.
I'm officially over 40 because I turned 40. So every day after 40 is officially over
Yeah.
30. Uh, but I believe that you went to celebrate in style in
Yeah.
IMAX. Is that correct?
It's true, James. And this is definitely an over 40-year-old birthday present to oneself. Um, our friend of the show, Christopher Nolan, released another
Ding,
movie. I don't
ding,
know.
ding.
I don't, yeah, ding. I don't know. His movies are a little hit or miss for me, but he made Interstellar, and therefore I'm just kind of on board for all his movies now. And as a gift to myself, I wanted to go see the true IMAX experience because, like, IMAX, it's hard. They're big, heavy cameras. They're so loud you can't even record dialogue while they're recording. It's the most obnoxious auteur way to create film these days, and it's actually film. It's actually like expensive money per second because you actually have to pay to have it developed. You have to go find old Kodak engineers that remember how to develop film, hire them, give them lots of coffee, then you got to hire someone to like cut the film into little film pieces and glue it all together. I don't know how film's actually made, but I heard it's something like that. And I wanted to get that film experience. So I took a boat, left my island, took a motorcycle, got on the highway because I needed to go fast, which I hate. Rode into a giant city because that's the only place you can find real IMAX these days. You got to go to actual Seattle to find a real IMAX theater. Stood in the hotline, got many emails about the air conditioner being broken. And then, James, would you believe it or not? When I got into the theater and I looked up to see the obnoxious projector that they were using, a relic from the past, what did I see? Can you guess?
Not that.
Something from the future, a laser. I was ready for 1970s technology and I got, well, it's actually 1970s technology, but a laser, a digital laser. And I was so disappointed,
Okay,
James.
do
So
you want to
disappointed.
just describe what you were expecting to see for people who maybe
Right.
don't know about IMAX? Because I know what you are looking to see, but when you turn, so you look at this big screen, and we all know screen size isn't important. It's the projector that's
Yeah.
projecting things that is one of the most important aspects of it. Uh, so you turn around and like, what are you expecting to see up there? Because no one ever turns around, by the way, but only Frank Krueger
They
does. I
don't?
turn around.
Oh, I always turn around.
I always turn around.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I can't not. It's always, I'm like, what's up, though?
Yeah.
You know,
My friend used to be a projectionist, so I can't help but to always look at the camera because I find projectors fascinating. They're big, monstrous machines because, especially with IMAX film, they take in these huge rolls of film, like 70 millimeters. That doesn't sound like a lot, but multiplied by a bazillion frames that you have to put in front of people to create an animation, also known as a movie, but it's really just an animation. Um, I'm expecting to see a giant machine with like 6 employees yelling at each other, trying to like move monstrous amounts of film onto a rack so that it can be projected. The film actually doesn't go like the old way. You would have like a vertical mount reel in the old style film. Not even it's current style film, but they figured out in order to put the widescreen picture on the 70 millimeter film, you got to put it horizontal, so it like takes up a massive amount of room. There's a very pretty particular lens you'll see on that camera, especially because such a large screen and such a relatively low throw, the distance of the camera to the screen. There's a particular lens I expect to see when I look up. But when I look up, all I see is like an iPhone attached to like a little tiny little lens or something. I don't know. Like before a movie they would often use digital projectors to put like a bunch of advertisements up or like movie
yeah,
trivia and junk like that.
yeah,
Um,
and they
you
change
would
it
see like
over.
a tiny little consumer projector up in the projection booth. That's not the real projector, ideally. But I'm looking, the harder I'm looking, I'm like, that's all I see is the tiny little junky consumer projector. And I'm like, what is going on? So that's what I saw. And then I had to ask someone, I'm like, am I going crazy? Like, there is no way that projector is actually an IMAX projector.
It's disappointing because in this day and age when I don't really know how well the movie theaters are doing necessarily. And also, once a movie comes out, it's like already available on Netflix like 2 weeks later. But I
Mhm.
like movie theaters a lot. I like the movie theater experience. It's very expensive to go to the
Yeah.
movies, so you are almost it's almost as if it's a premium experience at this
Right.
point. And if you're going to an IMAX, you're expecting even more of a premium experience. And now, if people don't know, the PACCAR IMAX in the Pacific Science Center was the one I've seen many official 30 or 70 millimeter film in 1.43 to 1 aspect ratio. Um, it was a true IMAX GT with a 70 millimeter capability on a beautiful 60 by 37-foot screen.
Yeah.
However, when you told me this news and information, I was shooken back because of when I go to an AMC or I go to a Regal or I go to a Cinemark and it says IMAX, we all know that's not a real IMAX. It's a fake IMAX with a bigger screen and a different projector and different sound that meets some IMAX quality standard.
Sure.
And what I want, if I'm paying for IMAX, is the hugest. It's literally you're recording on IMAX film. Like the film should be filmed on IMAX film, which I think costs like
Mhm.
$10,000 a second to produce.
Something
And
ridiculous. Yeah.
I want the optimal viewing experience of said IMAX experience. And I didn't realize that the PACCAR
Yeah.
changed to a digital IMAX. So it's still an IMAX, right? But it no longer has a 70 millimeter capability, and no longer it's not a true IMAX GT. And they changed their aspect ratio. What the heck's up with
Yeah.
that? 1.990 to 1? Doesn't make any sense. Like you and kept the same screen size. So it's like
Mhm.
it's actually smaller then because the aspect ratio is different. I guess it's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's weird.
And I hate to sound like I honestly, I don't like record people who say they're audiophiles and they like the sound of records because 'cause they've got that old analogy, scratchy feel, and I don't wanna sound like one of those people. But like you're saying, this was just kind of a special event. I
Yeah.
look at digital all day. I deal in RGB digital pixels all day. So I just wanted an analog experience, like, in the old days, like I think like in the '60s or something, like Cinerama was like 3 projectors, like showing this like ultra wide 2.7 to 1 ratio crazy film. Like they learned in the mid-century that like TV is out there and people have like well, they weren't good TVs then, but we have great TVs now. I have this gorgeous OLED TV that I've built a good sound system around. My movie viewing experience at home is fantastic. And so, like, if I wanna go through the theater, deal with Seattle parking, deal with the bite of Seattle setting up and trying to get to a theater, then I want, like, a unique experience. I'm going for that unique analog experience. I want to see that. I want the heat of the projector. I should feel the pulsing heat of, like, too much power being
That's
used to
that
project the
that
screen.
that's why I have a plasma screen. You can go
Right.
up to, and if it's warm in the winter, you can heat it on up. So
Yeah. So I fear even telling this story, I'm gonna sound like such a weird nerd or something like that, and I guess I am to some level, but it was just a little bit of that disappointment that you just can't get. Even though a friend of the show, Chris Nolan, is still recording on these old analog ancient devices and rehiring old engineers to cut this stuff, physically cut this stuff, uh, we can't experience it, and I find that a little bit sad. It'd be nice if there was at least one analog theater left.
yeah, if anyone knows exactly, like I'm sure we could look it up. But it is pretty disappointing because of all the theaters, there was only two theaters in Seattle I really went to. One was the PACCAR IMAX for IMAX specific movies, and usually like the documentary ones, like the nature
Yeah.
ones. I saw Madagascar. There's a not Madagascar, the animated film, but there's a one on lemurs in Madagascar that Heather and I went to see. It was stunning. Just like it
Yeah.
is, you can't describe seeing true IMAX on a true IMAX. It's crazy. And then the other theater is the Cinerama, which is now the SIF whatever theater.
Mhm.
And that theater, has a huge curved screen. It's 97 feet, and it was one of the last like three panel Cinerama capable
Yeah.
theaters, which is like not anymore, which is why it's not called the Cinerama. And they could play 70 millimeter film. They had Dolby Atmos and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they got rid of like that old system. Now they have a Christie 4K
Stinks.
RGB laser projector. I haven't seen any movies there. It's the same screen, but I'm like, it's never been IMAX. It never was
Yeah.
IMAX, but they can no longer do 70 millimeter film projection at all on it. Or Dolby Cinema. It's only Dolby Atmos, which is like fine, which is great. It was before.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm still interested to go because I do love that theater
Yeah.
and chocolate popcorn, but like that is one of those things where I'm like, I'm looking for the I'm looking for that extra,
Yeah.
it's a reason for me to go, or else I would just wait to see it, somewhere else. Or I just go on AMC, right? Well, it needs to be such a differential for in general. So I agree. And I don't think it's that it maybe is a little bit of that vinyl, a little bit like you're saying, but it's not quite the same because like Nolan, which by the way, I read an entire article, which is so funny you were talking about this when we just got on here. I read an entire article on the plane, which is how about Christopher Nolan wants you to see his movie
Right.
on an IMAX. It was like
Right.
he was this whole thing. He did a whole rant on it, I guess. But I don't know how many true IMAXs there are left in the world that can actually play the movie how he intended.
Yeah, yeah, and it's sad, and I should say, like, those laser projectors are fine. They're
Oh, okay.
fine. I'm sure it's a beautiful image that they put up there. It's just I wanted to support an artist who created this new artistic expression in a weird way, as artists do, and it's sad I couldn't find one, even in the big city, so
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, I don't wanna belabor it. It's just it's a little bit pour one out for analog in 2026. Go figure.
Well, I want to switch topics here. So we got three topics. The next topic I want to talk about, interestingly enough, talking about a blast from the past, being able to play it on something recent, is the Xbox Wire just put out a story today, I guess, July 22nd. It's July 23rd where I'm at. Um, but that they're bringing Xbox backward
Oh,
compatibility to
right.
the PC. Uh,
Hilarious.
So they're starting with four titles. So these are games that were on the original Xbox, made for the original Xbox. And when I say why this is fascinating, is because unlike Christopher Nolan's movie that was filmed on IMAX film that can be ported to a bunch of things, like when you're making when you're making a video game for specifically a very specific
Yeah.
console, then being able to take that and put it onto any single Windows 11 machine that can play it in different variations is wild. I have no idea what magic of backward compatibility, but basically they're rolling out this Xbox backward compatibility layer. My game Shred Nebula, the game that I got to work on at
Yes.
the
Your
studio,
game.
my game,
Designed, wrote the whole thing. Yep.
Shred Nebula, the game that I worked at Shred Games with a bunch of very impressive individuals. They brought to the back from Xbox Live Arcade over. They ported it, and I think they put it in a VM or something. I don't think this is what is happening here. I have no idea the magic of it, but they're starting with Blinks, which is kind of like a platformer, Fusion Frenzy, which is hilarious, Crimson Sky is a pretty good game, and Conquer,
Mhm.
Live and Reloaded, which is hilarious. Um, and basically what they're saying is you can now purchase these games. Like you can purchase them, install them, play them on your PC or handheld. Or you can use Xbox Play Anywhere if you already own them and have a digital license to them. It'll just now allow you to play on the PC, and it'll also use Xbox Cloud Gaming, so you can just play these on anywhere, on console, on PC, on handheld. And the minimum requirements are an i3, which is fascinating, 8 gigs of RAM, and an NVIDIA 9 GTX 950. So,
Whoa, okay.
mhm.
It has to be NVIDIA? Or is it
Or an AMD Radeon
okay.
RX
Right.
550 or an Intel Arc A310. Those are minimum. They have recommended, obviously. Um, but yeah, it's like crazy. I have no idea how or how like I wish they went into technical details in the blog
Yeah.
post. What kind of magic?
Well, especially Xbox guess
One
you call it Xbox One, Xbox -1, 0, first
Xbox OG
Xbox.
Xbox.
Yeah, OG. That was not a PC. I mean, Xbox eventually turned into kind of a PC, like a customized PC, but this was a pretty custom piece of hardware back then. They were very proud of their unified memory and all that stuff. It was an impressive of its time kind of build out of all that. I'm sorry. I'm also distracted because I'm sad in my head because I owned at least 2 of these games.
I owned all three of them.
But
All
but
four
my
of them.
Xbox account got hacked. I got hacked,
Wow.
James, and I lost access to that account. Really what they did is they spent all my monies, put some monies on my credit card, and then I burned the account down, or I begged Microsoft to burn the account down. So I can't access these 2 games, and that's what I'm actually sad about. But anyway, Xbox, that was a pretty original piece of hardware. So yeah, I'm curious, I mean, nowadays emulators have gotten so sophisticated. I'm curious if it's just an emulator for all that stuff, what the deal is there. But and I'm also wondering, like, is this a response to that whole like Sony PlayStation, we're not doing CDs anymore? Or is this like a weird delayed response to that? But I'm like, no, this must have been in development for years before the whole
Oh yeah.
PlayStation fiasco. Um, so this is kind of cool. This is
Yeah.
definitely cool.
I'll be super fascinated because yeah, is it running inside of some sort of emulator, inside of some sort of VM? Is it running just, I don't know, some magical, there's got to be, they couldn't just lift and shift, right?
No.
Obviously, there's got to be some,
You're
and
not recompiling these games. That is not happening. That is so much work to dig up the old builds.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not happening. It's
So
gotta be a binary. They gotta
it's
be
really,
running the binary.
it's got to be the binary. It's really fascinating. So I think really cool. I want to try it and see how it is. I play these games, especially Crimson Skies and Conquer, just to see how they play on it. But these are 25-year-old games, and these aren't like remasters, right? So this is a little bit fascinating here
Mhm.
because often you hear, oh, we're doing this, it's a remaster, it's whatever, and normally there's work, there's recompilation, there's other steps and pieces going into it, but this is just the original game, just
Yeah.
doing it. But something must be happening because
Remind
it's
me,
relatively
I
beefy
mean, it
spec.
must have been the original Xbox must have been standard def, right? Did we have 720p when that came out? I don't even remember. I can't remember 25 years ago. What was the
It
world
was
like? Did we have color?
the original Xbox has a custom 733 megahertz Intel Pentium 3 CPU. It's got a 233 megahertz NVIDIA GeForce 3, 64 megs of RAM.
What's it
Um,
outputting video signal wise? I
I
feel like it
think it
must have been
was
standard def.
doing RCA composite S video component. Yeah, so it must have been. Oh, it could do
Standard
up to
def,
it could do up to 1080i because composite
1080i.
plus.
Oh, okay, they could actually push it to do that. That's kinda
What
cool, actually.
That's not what it was probably actually pushing,
Yeah.
by the way. Like, sure, you're getting a 1080i signal, but it's like you go to an IMAX, but you're
Yeah.
not really.
Oh, boom. Oh, straight to the heart.
I mean, it says connectivity can do up to 1080i, but yeah, I'm imagining most
Yeah.
games are not 1080i. It's like they were using some AI upscaler rendering on the original Xbox.
Upscaling, they're just doubling the scan lines. They're just like, "We'll just repeat that scan line, double the
Um,
res."
and even if you were playing in 1080i, you're like, okay, well, why am I doing interlace instead of, a
Yeah.
progressive? Just I'd rather play at 720p, so it was just hilarious.
That's
But yeah,
fun, though. Yeah, I kinda wanna see one of these games running then. I think I played the Crimson Skies the most out of
yeah.
that list.
Well, you brought up I don't want to talk about Sony in general, but because I'm fascinated your thoughts on physical media in general. When we say physical media, right? We had CDs; those are things that existed. We had movies and Blu-rays and DVDs; those existed.
Mhm.
We had books; those still exist. I just bought one, and had video games, and all of these have lived in forms of physical and digital for a long time,
Yeah.
and even games on the PC, right? Like you can't go to the store and buy a PC game anymore. It doesn't exist. Remember those big
Right.
boxes? You just get a game and get them. And
Sad.
it felt like it is sad. I still have my original like StarCraft, you know,
Yeah.
box. It's a big box, a big wide box because it's got Brood
A
Wars in
nice
it as well.
Dark Forces box. Yeah.
Classic. They're huge, beautiful boxes. Monopoly. Uh, you know, yeah. What's your take on just the state of physical
Yeah.
digital media, I guess, in your 40s?
I think thanks, James. As you're getting old, let's ask this old man his opinion. Um, I have mixed feelings. I think like a lot of people. I think we are seeing that renaissance in physical media because everyone's getting so tired of shows appearing and disappearing off of like streaming services. So I think even I found myself like shopping Amazon. I'm like, what does a Blu-ray player cost in 2026? Like, could I get? I had a small Blu-ray collection, and then I gave it away when I was moving, and I've been regretting that a little bit, just because I've been working on my cool sound system and my nice
Yeah.
TV, and I'm like, wouldn't it be nice to have like high quality renditions of these things? Because when you're streaming 4K, especially me, I'm pulling 4K off of a satellite. I am not getting real 4K. I'm not getting the full resolution, or at least I'm getting a highly compressed version of it. And I start to wonder, like, oh, what would the good quality signal actually look like? And so I've been tempted to actually switch, like all hipsters out there, switch back to the physical media. And I love physical media. I'm building out an old RCA video disc collection and player. Like, this is definitely the vinyl part. That's vinyl. I mean, that is literally vinyl that I'm like putting all this stuff through. So I think in the game world, people make an argument about like trading games and reselling games and things like that. I feel like the future is the internet and downloading. But as someone with a slow internet connection, I totally get the idea of physical media. I don't particularly love Blu-ray because I know like these games, like what's the current big game? Crimson Dawn or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, Loading streaming game data off of a CD is horrendous because like a CD is a very linear format. So insert Blu-ray where I keep saying CD. Um,
Disc.
you're kind of stuck. Like a physical servo has to move a laser beam to a particular part of the disc. The disc has to be spinning. It's an incredibly slow, high latency experience when you're not reading in order. And so you cannot beat the speed of like a good SSD hard drive or something like that. And so, but the problem is games are stupidly sized now. 20 gigabyte game, I have to download 20 gigabytes and then somehow
Patches.
store those somewhere. Like, I kind of want to get Grand Theft Auto 6. And I'm like, how do I even do that? Like, they're
Yeah,
not putting anything in a
five
box
hundred gigs, I'm
anymore.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm gonna have to buy a $700 PlayStation and then $100 game, and even then, I'm like, am I downloading 500 gigabytes? Like, what's gonna happen after I spend all that money? Am I gonna have to sit there with a progress bar for a week, given my internet connection, in order to play the game? So, okay, you asked a simple question. I gave a long answer. The simple answer is I, I, physical media is still here, at least right now. I feel like there are still a lot of good arguments for physical media. But I think in 10, 20, 30 years, I it should be gone. Like everyone should have faster internet connections and all that because discs are not a good storage format. And
No.
I guess we could just sell everyone an SSD card, but that seems pretty wasteful.
I think the thing about games and about movies that are unique, because I also did discs to digital with my Blu-rays, so I have them all in like my Fandangos and Movie Everywhere, so I can boot them all up, which is really nice. But I'm not even really,
Mhm.
like you said, getting the true 4K. And we've built up a little bit of a Blu-ray collection. I have some Blu-rays now as we seem fit, so we can watch those movies. But usually with a movie, you're like, it's a progression in time. It's hours, right? You pick out something, you put it in, and a game's the same way. You pick it, you put it in. With music,
Yeah.
we're kind of
No.
rotating, right? We're rotating around, even like from distance, like, so I think that medium of music made a lot of sense. Books, for carrying around also could be said there, though, physical books are a little smaller, but, um, yeah, I think like for my games, like I basically have always just held on to them and been happy with them. The fascinating part is that even on the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2, they're cartridges. Not all of them are.
Mhm.
Some of them are cartridges that are key cards, and you download the game and it unlocks it
Mhm.
so you can resell it. But there's a lot of comparisons, which is what if you play the game, let's say Mario Kart world, you play it on either option one, the internal SSD, a micro SD, or the game cartridge. Which ones do you think is the fastest and which ones do you think is the slowest?
I mean, micro SDs can be pretty fast these days, so it's really hard to guess for me. I have to think Nintendo being Nintendo, the cartridge is probably the slowest of all the formats.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's either the SSD or the micro. I want to say the SSD, but it's Nintendo. They love putting slow hardware in machines.
I think it is the SSD, and then just barely though over the micro
Just
SD,
barely. Okay.
and then it is the cartridge, which adds several seconds onto it in general. So you get a interesting experience, and obviously discs are even slower for what they're
Yeah.
doing and accessing those mediums. So yeah, I think it's sad, but it is something that will change over time. But yeah, I like, at least if we're going to move in a direction, well, what's the state of play? What's the backwards compatibility? How do I get these? I carry around my Nintendo 3DS with me here on the flight over to Japan. I got all my games just right there. I can boot up all of them. However, like I can't get into the eShop ananymore, right? I can't buy new
Oh,
ones. I
funny.
think I can
Yeah.
re-download my games still, but that's not guaranteed for me, right? Forever. So that's the
Mm.
the rub, the trade-off there. All right, we're 30 minutes in. Let's get into our last topic. I'm gonna get out of this phone booth because I'm at
Yeah.
1 hour here in 7 minutes. So, and then they'll kick me out. And I want to be conscious here. Is you had a pretty big update to an app,
Ooh.
Brian Kruger.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna do a little bit of a commercial, but I there's a fun technology side here, so I just want to talk about the technology. But yeah, I'm working on version 1.16 of iCircuit, and it's got some cool new features. And one of the cool features, and this it still kind of blows my mind how this works, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, is the app is now supporting Python programming in the app. So if you probably heard me talk about iCircuit a million times. It's a circuit simulator. You can put things in it, resistors, LEDs, all the normal stuff, but you can also put microcontrollers. And in this case, the Raspberry Pi Pico and the Pico 2. And you can program those using this fun little language called Python. Have you heard of
Heard of
this
it?
Python language?
Just a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
Starts in Webster
Um,
for me pretty often.
Does it? Yeah. And you wouldn't believe, but actually in the embedded world, it's usually so performance and optimization obsessed. Well, it turns out this nice little language called Python is actually kind of wonderful to write embedded systems stuff in. So forever, for the longest time, I've wanted to support this programming system called MicroPython. It's just a different implementation of Python, but it's the same language. And we now support it in iCircuit with the craziest stack of software you've ever heard in your life. Okay, let me try to break this down. Ready? Set. iCircuit is a circuit simulator. It is taking a bunch of electrical nodes with known voltages and conductances. It's this big linear matrix. Now, most circuits aren't linear, so it actually has to do this thousands and thousands and thousands of times per second. So, games run at 60 hertz. My engine runs at 100 kilohertz in order to solve these kinds of circuits. So that's a circuit simulator. In that circuit simulator, this is a big innovation, a Raspberry Pi Pico 2 emulator has been written. So
Mm.
this is a basically cycle for cycle re-implementation of the chip that's on the little Pico 2 board.
Clean room.
And it's clean room implementation. It's an I'm gonna get this wrong, so everyone don't hold me to this because I actually didn't work on this. My partner in crime, Yvonne, wrote all this code. I've just been doing the code reviews like a good gentleman. Um, I believe it's like an ARM Cortex M0-ish chip,
Mm.
so kind of like a 32-bit chip sitting in there. And it's a re-implementation of that whole hardware. So implementing all those opcodes, emulating all the internal registers of it, and more importantly, implementing all the peripheral devices like the digital to analog converter, the GPIO, the general purpose IO pins, all that crazy stuff, the UART system, all that extra stuff that goes on the outside of a microprocessor, making it a microcontroller, and then a little bit more stuff that you put a microcontroller to create a board. So, yeah. So all that craziness, that's an emulator. That emulator is running the actual firmware that you can just get from the MicroPython website. You can just go
Wow.
click a download button. They'll give you a file, the firmware for MicroPython. And that emulator is running the MicroPython firmware. Now, in the app, you can double click the element and start typing in Python code. And what's happening is that firmware, which is running on an emulator, which is running on a simulator, starts interpreting the Python code so that it is actually executing and talking to all the hardware. It is the hardware stack, a magical, magical hardware stack, all running on an iPad of all places and an iPhone, whatever, mobile, I just it brings such a giant smile to my face that the hardware stack that we have created so that you can just type in some Python code and you can see it running in an app on your phone. It's ridiculous, James. That's it. I hope I made it clear just how ridiculous this is and why I'm so excited for this fun feature.
That's running inside of a .NET app?
That's all written in C sharp. All of that was written in C sharp, except for the firmware, obviously, because the firmware is just from the MicroPython site. The emulator and the simulator are all written in just C sharp. Nothing's fancy, no assembly, none of that. All cross-platform, so it's going to all the platforms. Yeah, it's all just written in C sharp.
Well, sounds like that'll be a good .NET Conf 2026 community session for you to talk about and talk about. Wow.
It's probably a little late to submit talks, or maybe it's not.
Has it started? It starts in August, like every year, so you got plenty of time to put it together.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I always get that.
You're good to go.
Mixed up. Sounds good. Yeah, we should definitely talk about it. So I put out a call for betas. If you're listening to this in the podcast, dig through my X account, Preclarum, and you'll find a post somewhere. If you want to beta test this, I don't want to call it a monstrosity, but it's a monstrosity. This amazing software hack. Then I hope you'll help me give it a little testaroony.
Now the question is, can I then use Apple Intelligence to describe the code that I want it to run, and then it writes the Python code for me?
Yes and no. So yes, on my machine it can. No, I'm not sure I'm going to ship that in the current version. Apple Intelligence can write Python code, but it's not great at writing MicroPython code.
You need your own.
So I need to do some tuning, and other models can do it, obviously, right? If I just shout out to Codex or something, or what, you know what I mean, GPT. So I haven't refined that part, which is annoying because it is, who wants to code anymore? You just want to tell it what code to write.
Exactly.
But to answer you, yes, but it's probably going to be in 1.16.1
Gotcha.
because I still need to refine the vibe side.
The vibes. Very cool. Yeah, that'd be a premium feature. Well, I like it. Well, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear more about it. But I got to get out of this phone booth and I got to go practice user group talk tonight, talking about all those vibes where I'm not going to be writing. I don't even look at the code anymore. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited to give it a try. Well, the nice thing is you could, for example, just open up an app on your phone, ask it to write some code, and then copy and paste it in. So easy enough. But all right, well, that's very cool. We'll put links to everything in the show notes, so give it a go, and then also give Frank them happy birthdays. And if you do know an IMAX theater in which Frank would like and still could go see Odyssey, is probably too late, but you can still write into the show. Go to youtube.com/@mergeconflict.fm to see all the comments, or you can go to the website mergeconflict.fm. But that's good for this week's Merge Conflict. So until next time, I'm Jason Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.